Well, hello there. It's Heike, and welcome to another episode of the Pursue Your Spark podcast. I am so excited that you're here with me today, and you will love today's interview. Have you been in survival mode before? In the survival mode, in the sense that you want to make yourself as small as possible so you will not notice and you don't get into harm's way. And then took the next step or the leap, creating your own reality and finding and creating an empowering space. Today, we're talking to Cassandra Wilder about the power of the inner goddess. Enjoy. I don't know about you, but I get frustrated when things don't go smoothly. I like a plan of action, and this action plan shows me how to do something, when to do something, and why I'm doing something to reach my goals. And my fitness lifestyle is no exception for that. That's why I created the 4-week lean out program. What is this 4-week lean out program? It is a comprehensive 4-week program where I will show you how to eat better with the focus on intermittent fasting. And then we're tuning up your fitness goals. This combined will help you lean out in midlife with clear, simple, and balanced action steps. You have access to a daily calendar for all your exercises that you can do from home with little to no equipment. And they're so doable because they're only 15 minutes long. That's right, only 15 minutes. We're using the latest science on intermittent fasting and macronutrients to help you get your metabolism back to where it should be. You will have the support of myself and other women on the same journey for support, inspiration, and accountability. I run this program only 3 times a year, so sign up. The link will be in the show notes, and I'll see you in the 4-week lean out program for a lean, fit lifestyle with fewer cravings and more energy in midlife. Hey there, you're listening to the Pursue Your Spark podcast. I'm your host, Heike Yates. We're here to help you live a healthy, fit, and confident lifestyle with tips, strategies, and interviews. Listen to the most inspiring women and how they dared to live the life they dreamed of and handled roadblocks in their path. Today I'm joined by Cassandra Wilder. She's a naturopathic doctor and the creator of the GoddessCeremony, a global platform that teaches women how to live empowered, authentic lives. By combining science and spirituality, Cassandra reminds women of the wisdom that lives within them. Welcome to the show, Cassandra.
Thank you so much, Heike.
This is so awesome. And I haven't talked about this lately, but how do I meet my guests is always an interesting introduction, I think, because people are like, Heike, how can you find all these diverse, interesting women? And in this case, I met Cassandra in a mutual interest group.
Yeah, so funny how it works.
Here. So today we're talking about something really powerful, and that's the power of your inner goddess. Now, when you grew up, Cassandra, in Utah, life was not all roses and happiness.
No, certainly not. And I think a lot of people listening will resonate with this story in that I grew up in a very secluded area of Utah on a ranch and certainly had a lot of challenges in my childhood growing up with an abusive family and a lot of power struggles and a lot of really difficult personalities. And so I quickly learned that to survive, you need to stay small. To survive, you need to pretend you don't exist. You need to disappear. You need to lie low. And so that carried through my entire childhood, always trying to be the hidden one, because if no one noticed you were there, then no one would yell at you, or you wouldn't run into conflict. And so certainly that caused me to grow up feeling very, very disempowered and very lost and with zero connection to self.
Now, you didn't grow up by yourself. You had three sisters, you said.
I did. And I feel so grateful that we all had each other because I think because of the challenges we experienced, we were really, really close, maybe uncommonly so, and really had each other's backs and did our best to support each other through some pretty hard times.
Yeah, yeah. How long did you stay in this environment?
Till I was 18.
Okay.
And so as soon as I was 18, I ran away to Salt Lake City and began my college going to the University of Utah and began my self-discovery path from there. That was the first time that I'd ever had the space to really ask myself, what do I want and who am I?
Now, when you sort of ran away, as you call it, what was that like? What is the feeling you had when you left this abusive environment?
You know, there's a beautiful poem by Maya Angelou called I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And that poem really spoke to me through some very, very hard times, reminding me that no matter how caged we are, no matter how stuck we feel, there is this piece of us that yearns to be free, that yearns to have that space to discover who we are. And so when I moved out, it was like a bird breaking out of this cage that I'd been stuck in my entire life. And for the first time, could figure out what I wanted in life.
Mm-hmm. And nobody there to hold you back or hold you in a cage with the choices they made for you.
Exactly. It was a very, very liberating time.
So you went to college in Salt Lake City and you finished college. And how was that like, given your background? You said you felt liberated, but did you have trouble fitting in? Were you still trying to hide?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I had been labeled as the shy girl, the sensitive girl, the moody child, you know, all these things. And I'd really embodied them as my personality. And so I think looking back now, I do think I hid a lot and really began to try to find validation in relationships. I think especially because I didn't have a safe container with my own father, I was always looking for that safety in other people's hands, other people's hearts. And I think as we all know, that doesn't last. That's not a sustainable way to live, to always be waiting for someone else to love you so that you can love yourself.
Is this how you got into a relationship in college or?
Yep, exactly. I started working at a security company and because I was so aimless and lost, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And so I just saw a job listing and took the job. And that's how I ended up in the security and law enforcement worlds. And yeah, leaped right into this relationship with a man that I thought was the love of my life. Of course, it was a very, very immature love. And that relationship was incredibly challenging and not sustainable in the least bit, and then ended in a very, very traumatic way.
What happened then?
So we were dating, we broke up, and he told me that I had to prove that I was worthy to date him.
Ooh.
And so, yeah, that gives a little insight into just how unhealthy our dynamic was. And so, little desperate 19-year-old me, I was doing everything I could to prove to him that I was worthy to date him. And then a few months into that, he decided that I was worthy to go on one date with him and that he would then assess if this was a possibility. So we went on a date. And then that night when he dropped me off at my home, he invited himself in and later sexually assaulted me in my very own home. And that was the most traumatic, horrendous thing I'd experienced up until that point in my life.
Wow. It's literally, you prove yourself, you come from a place of pain, and then there's this person who takes advantage of you. How did you escape that relationship, this situation?
Looking back, I wish I would have done it from a space of more empowerment, but especially when you're hurt by someone that you know and you trust and love, it's very confusing because in your mind, you're saying, I love this person. They would never do that to me, right? This stuff happens when you walk down dark alleyways at 2 a.m, right? This doesn't happen
Yeah.
to someone you know and love. And so it took me a few weeks of feeling into this. And then he began to corner me at work because we work together, and tell me, you didn't tell anyone, right? You're not going to tell anyone, right? And that gave me the understanding I needed that I didn't consent to that, and that was my worst fear. And so that began the journey of moving through the legal system, which was unfortunately also very disempowering, to be really, to see people dismiss your story and really look at you so critically, like, are you sure that's what really happened?
Mm-hmm. And you know that you share this with our audience is really powerful. A lot of these situations that we are with somebody we love and trust has brought to the media out in the open, much more open, I think, this past year, that women stepped forward and said, hey, I didn't consent to this, and we're hiding it and didn't get support from the law enforcement, or like you said, they wouldn't believe me. They said, oh, you invited him in. You must have wanted it.
Yep.
And and that is so, like you said, disempowering, and I think so disrespectful.
Yes.
Turns you into a liar, which you're not. So what did you do then, Cassandra?
So after moving through the legal system, that in some ways was liberating, because finally we no longer worked together. I had a protective order, which is like a restraining order against him. I had, some things in place that helped me feel a little safer, like he wasn't going to come after me or something. But that was just the beginning. Now that was done, I had to really face the magnitude of the entire situation and the stress and the fear and that constant state of wondering what's going to happen next. And so that began the healing journey. And while it was such a difficult time of my life, it was also incredibly beautiful, because for the first time ever, I had to start to address these things, from this current relationship to my childhood, and why these things continued to happen to me, and to really ask myself if this was the pattern I wanted to continue carrying into the rest of my life. Because while I didn't have a choice as a child necessarily what happened to me, I did have a choice now in how I let that create my reality.
Yeah, you said thinking is not linear.
Yeah. Healing is not linear.
So, and that is definitely a path. It's you wiggle your way around and through, and that must take so much self work and bringing up your self worth.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So after you, I call him, ditched the guy and left that part behind you, you said what? You said, I want to empower myself. I need to change that path and continue my healing. How did you do that?
Yes, well, it was a long, messy healing process. And I think messy just describes that process well, because there's no step-by-step guide on how to heal trauma 101. I wish there was, but instead it's those little moments in the day when we check in and see what's below that surface. So it was crying in dozens of yoga classes. It was going to any workshop or seminar that I could get my hands on, as I was desperately trying to pick up some pieces of myself to fill this void that I felt within me. And the more that I immersed myself in these healing spaces, the more connected I felt to myself and to something greater than me. Mm-hmm. And it was through this process that then, for the first time, I felt my intuition speak to me. Our intuition being that deep gut feeling that we all get when we know we're meant to do something or not do something. Yes. Yeah. And it can be overwhelming to hear our intuition, because often it doesn't make any sense, right? It's the opposite of logic. And so at the time, what I heard was...
What did your gut say?
She said, Costa Rica.
Woo! Costa Rica!
Yeah, I know.
All places.
I know. Yeah, but it was funny because at that time, by this time I was working for the Salt Lake City Police Department, and in just the most fear-based mindset you could imagine. And so to hear a voice in my head tell me to go to this country in Central America was literally crazy. And I thought, heck no, there's no way. And so I resisted it for months. Uh-huh. Yeah. So finally, though, one day I went on Google and typed in Costa Rica, because I didn't know the first thing about this country, and started to see these yoga retreats pop up, and everything in my being said, yes, that's the next step. That's what you're meant to go and do. Uh-huh. And yet again, that resistance crept back in. There's no way you could get the time off work. There's no way that you could pay for something like that, right? All these limitations, and yet my heart kept calling to it. And so I booked it, and it was terrifying, and I had no clue what I was doing. I had no logical reasoning as to why. And in a couple of weeks, I was on an airplane going to Costa Rica by myself.
Did you sell everything at this point?
Not yet. Not yet. So this first trip, I spent a week there and had such a beautiful time. And for the first time in my life, really felt joy and really felt connected to other human beings, and was surrounded by people that were like me, and that they had lived through a lot. They were on their healing journeys, and they were so optimistic and so hopeful about the future. And that was so inspiring to me.
Yeah.
And so when I came back from that trip, that's when suddenly it really became unsustainable for me to continue working in this career that I hated, to live in this place that I didn't like, to be in this culture or this community that didn't serve me. And so that's when I took that leap, sold everything I owned, quit my job, and bought a one-way ticket.
To Costa Rica?
I actually went to Belize first.
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
What was the calling in Belize?
You know, I was meeting someone that I connected with in Costa Rica, and that just seemed like the right spot to begin a big trip all across Central America. And so it was on that trip that I got to explore Mexico and Belize and Guatemala and El Salvador. And it was Guatemala especially that completely transformed the path of my life.
Tell us more about it.
Yeah, so there's a beautiful lake in Guatemala, El Lago de Atitlan, and it is known to be one of the most sacred sites in the world. It has a very deep feminine energy, but I had no clue about any of this. Showing up, I was just having fun. And I arrived there and had the opportunity to go to my very first women's circle. And having grown up in the Western world, I've never had very good relationships with other women. I always preferred to be one of the boys. And so I was very skeptical going into this space. And yet again, something really drew me in. And I went, and I was astounded by what it really meant to sit in a circle with other women, to witness women that were so powerful and graceful and could speak with such vulnerability. I was amazed by how raw their emotions were and how they took responsibility for themselves and their lives. I was just blown away, thinking, am I allowed to be here? Because I've never seen this. And I was so scared to share my story and to be witnessed, because I was really putting them on such a pedestal above all of me. And when they gave me the space to speak, and it was a very open-ended question, just what's going on for you in your life? Is there anything you're ready to let go of, to release? I just sobbed. I sobbed and sobbed. And this heaviness of decades worth of fear and stress melted off of me. And it was the first time I'd ever been witnessed by other women.
How powerful to let go in front of others.
Truly. Yeah, it was very, very powerful.
Because many of us, and I don't exclude myself, I keep a lot of things private, and I don't want people to know that certain things are going on with me, and letting it go in front of strangers is even more powerful and shows the strength you had in this circle of women.
Yes, vulnerability is such a powerful thing. It is not a weakness.
Yeah. Now, how did you find that women's circle?
There was a little handwritten poster on a little derelict poster board in the city. And so it was so random and yet so divine. And the chance of me even seeing it was remarkable. But then to also hear that call, that guide within saying, you need to go to that. And no matter how much I resisted it, it continued to pull me in.
Mm-hmm. Did you speak Spanish at this point?
No. So fortunately, the circle was in English. That was helpful for me. And yeah, it's just that experience transformed the entire path of my life and really inspired me to start to create a space like that for other women.
Yeah, you created your own goddess ceremony, and you call yourself the creatrix.
Yes.
Tell us, creatrix, what is your goddess ceremony, and what is creatrix?
Yeah, well, creatrix in my mind is the feminine form of creator. And so when we embody the creatrix, we are taking responsibility for our lives. We are saying we are the creator of our reality, and in every moment have the choice and the power to start again. And so you are the creatrix of your life. And instead of CEO or creator, I decided to be the creatrix of Goddess Ceremony. And so GoddessCeremony is a global sisterhood, and we focus on teaching women the tools they need to live an empowered, vibrant life, or in essence, learn everything that you should have learned from your mothers, your grandmothers, your communities, and yet next to none of us did. And so through sacred goddess retreats, women's circles, and women's leadership trainings, we seek to revive this sacred container for women.
Yeah, because when you said that what we should have learned from our mothers and grandmothers, I can only say from my part in my family, everybody was tight-lipped. And
Yes.
now I am 58 now. Every now and again, my mom mentioned something from the past, like a side note, and I'm going, "Huh? You never talked about that." And, oh, that's not important. That's we don't need to talk about that. So it's that closeness that I experienced in my family, where nobody talks about anything,
Yeah.
and everything's always fine, which
Yeah.
drives me crazy.
Truly, truly. And I think especially in these last dozen generations, we've seen that this disconnect. And so it's not just our moms or their moms, it's so much deeper than that.
Yeah. You said making your wounds your wisdom. What do you mean by that, Cassandra?
Yes, making our wounds our wisdom means taking the hardships, the challenges, the heartbreaking moments we've all experienced. We could even use that word trauma, and transcending them into a catalyst to move forward. So trauma in this life is inevitable. We've all had messed up childhoods to an extent. We've all had some really, really sad things happen that likely none of us deserved. And so whether we let those experiences, though, control the direction of our life or not is up to us. And so to make them our wisdom is to make them our why, and to perhaps even turn it into a bigger story so that we can actually serve other people that are going through the same things we experienced.
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I'm super curious because I have not been to any of your goddess ceremony retreats. What do you guys do there? Or what is what everybody does?
Well, we have so much fun, I can tell you that. The retreats are really, really special. They're very immersive. And so we're seeking to nourish you on all levels. So we're staying at beautiful luxury lodges on dozens of acres of wilderness. And so you're getting that opportunity to disconnect, to be with nature, to get away from that hustle and bustle and craziness. We bring in world-class chefs to make all organic, gluten-free vegan meals so that you don't have to worry a thing about food. You don't have to do the dishes. I mean, just that is such a gift for most women who are doing all that for everyone else all the time.
Yeah.
And so there's that, which I think really sets the foundation for women to feel nourished and cared for and loved. And then we add in the sacred components, these workshops and ceremonies that give women the space to be introspective, to look within, to ask themselves, who am I and what was I born to do in this world? And so that may be through understanding the womb or the uterus and how that is our power center as women, understanding how we cycle and ebb and flow every month with the moon phases and why that is so key for empowerment. And then also just having that space to connect with other women. So often we feel like we're alone on our journeys, or no one gets it, or we have to do all this hard stuff by ourselves. And to simply have the space to hear other women's stories and to see how similar we all are, how our basic needs are all exactly the same, is so affirming for women.
Yeah. What is one of the things you do as an practice or an activity?
One of my favorite ones is a fire ceremony. And so we create a sacred fire. We set an intention with this fire, and then women have the invitation to come out, sit around the fire beneath the moon, the way women have for thousands of years, and to write out the things that they're ready to let go of and to burn them. And it's very, very powerful. It's very, very ceremonial. And So many of us move throughout our lives carrying the burdens of the world, carrying these traumas from our childhood, from our entire lives, and this heaviness weighs us down, and it takes away that passion and that spark within us. And so to simply give women that space to ask themselves, what am I so tired of lugging around? What am I done embodying as my story, is powerful. And there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of intensity, and yet you see women transform right before your eyes.
Wow, that is truly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I can only imagine what it's like. Tell me, what does sisterhood mean to you, Cassandra?
Yeah, sisterhood to me is the act of seeing another woman and loving her unconditionally, to see yourself within another woman, and to let go of that need to compete and to replace it with compassion, to let go of that need for jealousy and to replace that with complete acceptance. And for those of us that have never experienced sisterhood, that probably sounds very far-fetched. And maybe we've had a lot of wounds from the feminine. We've maybe been bullied or had women do those stereotypical things that we think of. But to sit within a space and to participate in an active sisterhood is unlike anything that I could even put words to, because you feel unconditionally loved, supported, and honored.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you goddess creatrix, you not only created the GoddessCeremony, but you developed the Wild Goddess Yoga, which is a term like right down my alley, the Wild Goddess. I'm like, yes.
Yes.
Tell me about your Wild Goddess Yoga. What is it all about?
I would love to. So, Wild Goddess Yoga is an opportunity for us to weave together the divine feminine or the sacred feminine with the practice of yoga. And so yoga traditionally was mostly practiced by men. It is a fairly linear practice. You know, there's set postures and things like that. And then the divine feminine is this flowy, shifting, ever-changing energy. And so when we weave those together, we get a really powerful practice that allows for fluidity, for change, for your own free flow movements. And so within Wild Goddess Yoga, we are creating a beautiful container for you to flow, connect to your breath, move, but then also connect to this wild essence within, this part of you that is untamable, that is wild, that is sensual. And this yoga invokes that in women. It's very powerful to witness.
Ooh, that sends goosebumps down my spine. That's like, ooh, this is right down Heike's alley.
I love that. Yeah.
And I saw that this is a fusion of Raja yoga. Is Raja breath?
So Raja means royal yoga. There's many different types of yoga. And so Raja, we think of breath, we think of that royal movement. Mm-hmm. And then Hatha is what we see a lot of in the Western world, which is maybe more of your typical vinyasa kind of yoga class.
Yeah, because I see oftentimes clients or students ask me, I used to teach Iyengar yoga before I started teaching Pilates, and people were saying, so what type of yoga are you teaching? Is it Hatha? And I'm like, not exactly.
Right.
And so, like you said, it's a Western umbrella for this is yoga.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. That's what we see mostly. Yep.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious, what are 3 things that you would suggest our listeners could do or start out by to seek clarity in their lives and live more authentic?
Yes. So the first thing that I think would be really, really powerful, and even if you just start with this one, this will create profound transformations, but that's to create compassion for your story, to look at your life, to look at the things that you've experienced, the beautiful moments and the really, really hard moments, and to forgive yourself regardless of what happened. So often when we've experienced especially challenging moments, it's the guilt and the shame that we put on ourselves that really causes us to embody this and to carry this around, this heavy, difficult energy. And so forgive yourself, have compassion for yourself, know that you did the best you could in that moment. And simply doing that can be your path to liberation. But now if you want to take that a step further, I'm a big proponent for touch your shadow. We hear all this stuff about be a light worker, light and love, good vibes. And frankly, I can't stand that. If I can just be really frank here, I don't like that, because it's not all light and love. There is that shadow that's part of this reality. And so rather than always hiding from it or bypassing it, what if we sat with that shadow? What if we looked within at those things that were really traumatic, that were really hard? And we could do that alone, or we could do that with a professional, someone like a therapist that can really walk through it with us, feel our shadow, and help us see perhaps the magic or the wisdom that was birthed from that. And then lastly, there's huge power in sharing your story. And when we share our story, we realize how many other people have lived through something so similar. And that creates the ultimate connection, that connection that's formed on vulnerability, of honesty, of authenticity. And it also creates an opportunity for us to heal, because to speak our story, in my opinion, is to heal it.
Beautiful. I think these are just three totally doable and super important tips. I love those.
Yeah.
Now, Cassandra, how can people discover more about you?
Yeah, so you can find me at GoddessCeremony.com, and that's a great place if you want to find the retreats, the trainings, upcoming women's circles, and also I do online naturopathic consultations. So that's a whole other side to all of this, is the science part, the physically supporting men and women on their healing journey. And then I'm also on Instagram at Wild Goddess, and I have a podcast as well, the Goddess Ceremony podcast, where I weave together the linear with the woo, the science and the spirituality, where I get to bridge these two very seemingly different worlds.
Awesome. This is great. So guys, listening to this, take notes and follow us on Instagram. And you just heard Cassandra's handle. You know that we're at the Pursue Your Spark podcast, or at Heike Yates. We love to hear your feedback, and let us know how you like this episode. If Cassandra's words have touched you in any way, reach out to both of us and let us know, because we really want to hear. And I want to thank you so much, Cassandra. This was such an awesome podcast. Thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you so much.
And we'll see you soon. Bye.